Hello everybody! In this video we're going to talk about FPS or frames per second. We're going to understand what that means and how to apply this knowledge to create better videos. Intro. Let's start defining the meaning of FPS or frames per second. FPS are the amount of pictures that together make possible 1 second of video. For example, if you want to make a video of 24 FPS, means that the camera will take 24 pictures to make a second of video. Nowadays, video games are getting better and better, more realistic. And if you are a video gamer, you heard about video games at 60 frames per second or even 120 frames per second. Well, this is simply marketing, and I will explain you why. The human eye can see between 40 to 60 FPS as an average, because some people can even see 120 FPS. We have to understand that every person is different. Like I said before about video games, at 120 frames per second is just marketing, is basically because for the human eye, there is not much a difference between 60 frames per second and 120 frames per second. The human eye in front of a screen tends to adapt. They get used to the FPS of the screen. The human eye starts to see video at 13 frames per second. Less than that normally looks like a lot of photos put together, you know? Still, a video of 13 frames per second is not like the best quality per se. When we watched movies, we're watching videos at 24 frames per second. In motion pictures, they always use 24 frames per second from the beginning, so everybody is used to that. In the movies, when someone moves fast, it tends to be blurry, and we're used to that. In the movie The Hobbit, for example, the director Peter Jackson decided to use 48 frames per second, and we're not used to that. But what do you think about that movie? Did you see it? And if you saw the movie, did you see the difference? Let me know, because I'm really curious about it. You have the comments below. Now let's talk about TV. In Europe, the system PAL is used. Well, also in Africa, parts of South America, some places in Asia and Australia. And PAL works at 25 frames per second. So TV shows in those places are filmed at 25 FPS. In the United States, Central America, and some places in South America, the ones that we were missing, the system is NTSC, and it works with 30 frames per second. Nowadays, most cameras, even smartphones, allow you to film 60 frames per second, 120 frames per second, and even more. But the question is, why should we film in so many frames? Actually, sometimes you want to film in 1 frame per second, or even less than that, but why? Well, let's talk about the amount of frames and how can we take advantage of that. There is a technique called Timelapse, where you can film 1 frame per second or even less, like a frame every 10 seconds. What it means is that the camera will take a picture every second for a certain amount of time, and at the end is going to put all the pictures together and make a video out of them. This technique is used very often, for example, when you want to film a sunrise or a beautiful flower blossoming. Now, let's talk about slow motion in our videos. Imagine that you have a sequence of 24 FPS, and you have also a video that you filmed at 24 FPS. Very nice, video is very cinematic and matches the sequence, so everything is perfect. But now you want to slow that video to half of the speed. So 1 second of video will become 2 seconds of video. What the software is going to do is stretch the video to match the 2 seconds, making your video, instead of 24 FPS, to 12 FPS. That is not good. The quality is not going to be good. Now, many upper-level softwares give you the tool to fix that problem, duplicating the frames so that every second in your video will still be 24 frames per second. But that is not necessarily the solution, because not always the quality is good. In this case, the solution would be for you to film your footage at 48 frames per second. Then when you put it in the sequence for the slow motion, the stretching is not going to affect the sequence, because that footage will become 24 frames per second and 24 frames per second. You will not lose any quality. That would be the correct way to go if you want to make a slow motion footages. If your camera doesn't go to 48 frames per second, then go for 50 frames per second. That would be the closest. Now, if you like this video, don't forget to give me a like, subscribe for more content like this, and until next week.